What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and welcome to episode 24 for May 31st, 2012 of Ask the King. That's right, this is the 24th episode, which really kind of makes you think. You know, when I started out Ask the King, I was doing it a couple times a month, and then I turned it into a monthly thing after a lot of figuring out, gee, maybe there was not enough questions to really do one of these episodes, you know, every couple weeks. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, next month is going to be the 25th episode, the anniversary. That's an anniversary milestone episode for me. And so maybe I'll be planning something special. I'm not sure yet. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in this next month that's going to keep me really busy, including E3, including too many games, including all the games that I'm going to have to catch up on while I'm doing those things. So I'll let everyone know as the time approaches, okay? But anyway, this month was a special month because this was actually the first month that I accepted Facebook questions. That's right. For the past month, I've been using Facebook. And, you know, for years people had asked me to use Facebook, will I ever use it? And I kind of was reluctant, and then finally I said, alright, there's reason to use it. There was some pretty good reason, mostly because the fans were asking, but to avoid confusion, there were a couple fan pages. There was actually a page that wasn't by a fan, it was by a hater, and he was impersonating me, and there was a bunch of people who were all, oh, I'm Darkside Phil on Facebook, and no one knew what was going on. So finally I created an official Facebook page that everyone can now you know, enjoy, and daily I'm putting up all of the new content and stuff on there, but I also accepted both Twitter and Facebook questions for the first time for Ask the King this month. So you're going to see some variety in the questions, I think. We're going to have some E3 related questions, which is good, since I am attending E3 with John Rambo next week. So let's get right to it, because as usual we've got plenty of questions. So the first one here. Question is, hey Phil, what are your opinions on NASCAR and your reaction to the people who say it is full of rednecks? From Booyaka Dragon. Well, first of all, that's an insulting thing to say, that, oh, it's just a bunch of redneck hicks, and dude, that was pretty insulting the way I just said that. But anyway, yeah, NASCAR. NASCAR, if you're not familiar with it, if you're not you know, an American and you're not into this kind of sport per se, it's basically high-speed racing. It is I don't want to say it's a league. I'm trying to think of what they call it in particular, but it's basically a bunch of guys who compete doing very high-speed races. You got the Indy 500. There's a whole bunch of different famous tracks in the United States where these guys race. For some people, it's exhilarating. They love it. They go to the track. They love everything. Oh, I love it when he makes a pit stop and they do this, and then you see the passes near the end of the race and blah, blah, blah. I've never been into NASCAR. I never will be. For me, it just never caught on, all right? Now, I do have a couple fans who are into it, and it would be a nice Saturday or a Sunday, and they'd sit down and crack open a beer and just sit on the couch for hours on end watching NASCAR. And I kind of think that's kind of what kind of entertainment and sport is, where it's more of a relaxation thing. Yeah, it's exciting because there's stuff going on, but you can just sit there, sit back, relax, again, drink a cold one on a warm Sunday, and just enjoy what's going on in the race. As opposed to some other sports where it's more like, yeah, it's intense, non-stop action. And, you know, let's be honest, if you describe NASCAR, it's a guy driving in a circle in the same direction for hours on end. That's all NASCAR is. Now, of course, you could also say, well, basketball is just bouncing a piece of rubber and throwing it through a hoop. You know, so you could describe any sport, per se, in that same way and kind of degrade it or demean it or belittle it. I can understand the appeal to some people. It has never appealed to me. Do I think that everyone who likes it is a redneck? No, that's ridiculous. How dare you? How dare people make that statement? How dare they? Okay, next question. Hey Phil, will you ever be attending any conventions in the Midwest, which is where I'm from? It makes me difficult to go to any conventions that you appear at because, you know, he lives in the Midwest. That's from Zach OD132. Now this is an interesting point because I mentioned this several months ago on Ask the King, and I got a couple suggestions, but really nothing overwhelming that really was a definitive answer. I would love to attend more conventions. I mean, I did MagFest in January. I'm doing Too Many Games in June. And then there may be one or two other conventions that I'll be attending near the end of the year. But really, there haven't been any giant conventions that have been, or not giant, but you know, conventions that are known for video games that have been jumping out at me. You know, I tried the PAX East thing, and we all know how that turned out. I requested with more than enough time in advance of the event, okay, where there was no reason why they should have said no, and they denied my panel, okay, which is complete bullshit, because I saw some of the stuff they had there, and it was a joke. So obviously, they don't know either. Either whoever's making the choices didn't know what they're doing. I mean, just take a look at my internet following versus some of the people who were there and actually got panels. I disagree with that decision, but of course I'm going to disagree. It's my vested interest, you know. It's my panel, so I'm going to be upset about that. But outside of that, like, what other gaming conventions are there? You know what I mean? If people could tell me, gee, Phil, there's this big gaming convention, or this big convention in my area, and it always gets a bunch of people, and they always accept panels, and we really like to have you, then I would like to do that. In fact, earlier, like last year, someone told me there was going to be one in Florida at some point that they wanted me to come to, and they were going to give me all these details and invite me as the time approached, and then they never gave me any details. I never heard from them again. So, you know, if there are conventions in the area that you think that would cater to someone like me, video games, having a panel about Project 7 and about what I do on YouTube, etc., so like Too Many Games, let's be honest, Too Many Games is an up-and-coming convention. It's pretty decent size, but it's not a huge one yet. I think they're really trying to grow the convention, and that's why I'm happy to be a featured guest. I'm happy to promote it. But I need to know what conventions people are going to. I need to know if there's one in your area, and I forgot to set my timer, which really sucks. If there's one in your area that you'd like me to attend, or if you work on the staff of a convention and you think that it would be a good fit for someone like myself or John Rambo or whoever to attend, send me the information and we'll go from there. There's 100 ways you can reach me, whether it's darksidefil@hotmail.com, PMing me on YouTube. You know, my information's out there. But yeah, would I like to attend a convention in the Midwest? Absolutely. I just don't know what ones are good. And I've been searching the internet. The internet's kind of a crappy resource when it comes to these conventions. Like, you'll find a couple websites that are indexes for them, and then you go to the individual websites, and it's hard to tell. Is this a good convention? Is this one a lot of people attend? A lot of these conventions don't report numbers simply because they don't, I guess they don't get a lot of numbers, or it's hard for them to put an exact finger on attendance. And also, it's kind of hard to figure out, gee, would this convention like me to have a panel there, or is it more of like just, you know, maybe more anime-oriented, maybe more tabletop gaming-oriented, maybe it's not about video games. I think that right now video games are finally becoming more mainstream, and that you'll see more conventions sprouting up for video games, but right now gaming was kind of always like the third or fourth thing on the list, behind comic books, movies, anime, tabletop gaming, you know what I mean? And now video games are kind of getting up there. So if you know of any good conventions that you think I'd be a good fit for, send me the information. Alright, next question. Phil, have you ever played any of the Pokemon handheld games? And if so, what are your thoughts on them? And that's from LTD73. I don't know if that's supposed to be like Lieutenant Dan 73, you know, like a reference to Forrest Gump or whatever. But I have only played one Pokemon game ever, Pokemon Blue. You know, when the games were new, it was Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red. And I played Pokemon Blue, and I actually liked the game a lot. It was reminiscent of a lot of more traditional turn-based RPGs. And I never played another one. And you want to know why? Because it's the same fucking game. Like, I can understand the addictive nature of it. Oh, I gotta catch every one. I gotta do all the secret stuff, blah, blah, blah. But after I played one, like, I was never interested enough to ever go back. It was, the plot of Pokemon is, you need to catch Pokemon. Like, that's the plot. Yeah, there's a couple secondary supporting characters. Yeah, Team Rocket's involved, and, you know, their side plot, but really, it's not a gripping story. It's not a very complex deal, you know what I mean? I think it's more of an addictive kind of thing where people are like, I gotta keep playing, I gotta catch all the Pokemon. Oh, what do you mean, there's gold and silver? I'll buy both because there's gonna be 50 exclusive Pokemon in each version, then I'll swap between. And it's like, after I played one, I felt like I've been there and done that. And I'm perfectly aware that the series has had 5 jillion sequels, and there's 100 spin-offs, but it just doesn't really interest me that much, okay? After I played the first one, I was like, I've done it, and that was enough for me. This question is from Grimdark Slice, and he asks, Dear DSP, I'm wondering your opinion on the state of Adam Sessler leaving X-Play. It was a big piece of news for April, even if G4 has gone down the toilet lately. Adam Sessler was a big part of what made X-Play alright to watch back in the day. What do you think of one of the biggest correspondents finally leaving G4 forever? First of all, G4's been shit for a long-ass time. It's not lately that it's been in tubes. It's been shit for like a decade, and I'm not exaggerating. The show is shit. The whole channel is shit, alright? You've got people who don't understand the gaming industry who bought a TV channel because they wanted to say, oh, games are cool, and there's no one there who, obviously, who has any kind of creative direction who knows what to do with the channel. So the channel's been floundering for quite a long time. More often than not, you see non-gaming related stuff on there. I've seen fucking Star Trek The Next Generation and reruns of Cops being played on that channel, which is frustrating because you know if someone actually had a channel and did something well with it, it would probably be successful. Now the problem is, in the past 5 years, everything's become internet-based. You've got YouTube. You've got all these websites that all have this information already. Is there really a need for a television channel that's about video games? Probably not. The technology is advanced to the point where most people who play video games all the time don't really watch TV all the time. So, just there, you've dropped the ball. If 10 years ago you had gotten this channel going, maybe people wouldn't have had to rush to the internet to get information about games, but this channel has sucked for so long that really there's no reason to watch it. Now, that being said, X-Play was one of the few shows that a lot of people liked. It reviewed video games. And Adam Sessler actually was an avid gamer. He does other things like podcasts and other things related to gaming outside of just being on G4 TV, as opposed to everyone's a single fucking person that works on that channel. I mean, all those people who work on G4 are actors or correspondents or models. They know nothing about video games. Morgan Webb? Fuck that. She wasn't a gamer. You know what I mean? Like, all these people who are on G4 weren't gamers. And then all of a sudden they're on G4 and now they become gaming celebrities? No. Stop, don't buy into that bullshit. Morgan Webb's at a convention? So what? I don't want to fucking see her. I'll go ask another fucking bimbo, you know, who's better looking than her about video games, and she'll know just as much. So, there's no reason for people to even care about this kind of stuff. Now, Adam Sessler, I have mixed feelings about Adam Sessler. I understand he's a gamer, and he was maybe for, you know, for the, what is it, a decade he was at G4, whatever, he was trying to make it work. And maybe the incompetence of the channel really wasn't his fault, you know what I mean? Maybe he really was trying, but he was just surrounded by idiots who were telling him to do dumb shit, and the channel, let's face it, the quality of the channel was shit, and still is shit. Outside of their coverage of E3, what else do they really do during the year that anyone cares about? Nothing. But, that being said, he still is kind of a joke. I mean, look, they had him at EVO one year, and he's doing the commentary. He did no research whatsoever to understand the games at EVO. Started making dumbass comment, oh, now it's all tied up. But it wasn't. One guy was blatantly winning, and if he had done 5 seconds of research to understand how Street Fighter works, he would have known that. He was basically very unprofessional with what he did that year at EVO. And it just goes to show, like, is he really that much of a gamer? Or maybe he got sent out there last minute and didn't want to do it, and they forced him to do it. I don't know. But all I know is I don't really care. Like, Adam Sessler, everyone on G4, they're non-entities. They don't exist. Now in the dawn of anyone can go online and do basically exactly what they were doing, and now everyone's doing it better than them. G4 is completely outdated. It's an archaic model. You can't have television and video games really mix anymore, okay? And that's a shame, but that's really what happened. You had a decade where an entire industry was booming, and television didn't know how to cover it or even cater to that audience, and so the internet took over that role. So, do I care that Adam Sessler left G4? No, and no one else should either, because G4 is worthless. It's outdated and it's pointless, okay? Sorry, that's just my feeling. Next question. Hey Phil, I noticed that YouTube has enabled mobile ads. My question is, do you get revenue from mobile devices or not? That's from dcross20. The answer is, as of very recently, yes. As of, I believe it was as of April, I'm not 100% sure on that, but as of the past month or so, yes, they've enabled mobile ads, and therefore I do get credit for mobile views. So, that's great news for those of you who watch my content from smartphones, from iPods, from all that. There's still a problem. Apparently in the past couple of weeks, YouTube has a new bug where some of my videos say that they're not viewable on mobile devices. It's not anything that I have control over. When I actually upload a video to YouTube, by default, it's enabled to be able to be viewed on mobile devices. For whatever reason, something's messed up, and this isn't working for certain videos. And it's only certain videos, too. It's not every one. Like, I'll upload a series of 11 videos, and all of a sudden, 2 of them won't be visible on mobile devices. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with that. It's some kind of a weird YouTube bug, but the answer is yes, I do get credit now for mobile views. Next question. Phil, why do you only wear your cowboy hat in the Ask the King videos? And where did you get it? From Mr. Zombie. I wonder if that's the Miami Zombie. But anyway, most of you, I'm not going to say most, some of you know the answer because some of you have been my fans for over 2 years, which is how long ago it was when I got this hat. Some of you do not. You're more, fans from the past 2 years. So let's go back and re-examine this question. This hat I actually purchased in 2010 when myself, John Rambo, and Howard all traveled to Nashville, Tennessee to participate in the Super Battle Opera Super Street Fighter II Turbo Qualifier Tournament. This was the tournament where if you won, you got a spot to be on Team USA at Super Battle Opera that year for Super Turbo. That was the year when John Rambo actually qualified and went to Japan. Now when we were in Nashville, one day we just had set aside for tourism. We just wanted to go around and see stuff. And so we were walking down that main boulevard to where it's the world famous street in Nashville. And there was a hat place. And so we went inside, we were all trying on hats. I said, you know what, to hell with it. This is cool. This is a cool souvenir. Maybe I'll never be in Nashville again. Who knows? I want to get a hat. And so I bought this cool Stetson cowboy hat. And then when I got back, I think one of the first things that happened, the hat showed up during the day that I was going to film Ask the King. And I said, wow, this would be a neat thing to do. Let's have a cowboy hat here when I do Ask the King. And that'll be a really cool gimmick. I didn't know if I was going to wear it in every episode. It ends up that I did. It was kind of in the running thing, is I wear this hat when I answer questions. So I just think it's a cool thing to do. You get used to seeing me here wearing the hat when I do the Ask the King videos, and that's the story behind it. Alright, next question is from Ninetails Commander, and he says, I have a question, Phil. Are you okay with people who use your videos in their own videos? Now the reason I ask, sorry I keep checking the time because I didn't set my timer because I'm an idiot. The reason I ask is that sometimes there's been a video of yours that I've seen, and I really like it, and I like to use it as maybe a funny clip, or maybe to review your video. Here's my policy. Alright, first of all, understand anything that I upload is actually completely protected by 2 things. Number 1, by copyright. US copyright actually protects any video that you upload to YouTube. So anything that I upload, I do retain the legal rights to. Number 2, I actually hold the trademark to Darkside Phil in digital video form, meaning any video that I upload, it has me, I'm the trademarked character of Darkside Phil. So I own the copyright and I own the trademark to any video that I upload. However, what I do support is if there's a fan demand for example, montage videos. Some fans do funny montage videos, or the best of this particular month, the best of this series of videos. I fully support those because, number 1, it's really cool that my fans like my content so much that they want to do these videos and put effort into doing them. But number 2, it spreads the word about me. The more people who see those videos, the better. And it brings people to my channel, so it makes sense. Now, will I support if someone just downloads my video and re-uploads it? I've seen that. Someone just downloads my whole video off of YouTube, which you're not supposed to be able to do, by the way, and then re-uploads the whole damn thing on their own channel. Doesn't mention me, doesn't explain why they're doing it. It's not a montage or a fan tribute or anything like that. It's just to basically steal my content. No, that obviously I don't support, and that is wrong and you shouldn't do it. I've also seen some people who take my videos and cut them up and use them out of context. We're talking about the hater channels. And that also, obviously, I don't support. Am I going to go out of my way to shut down people who do that stuff? Not necessarily, not unless I see that it's significantly harming me. To this point, I'll be honest, even though there are so many of these people who are trying to bring me down and do hateful stuff about me, I don't think it's negatively affected me. At least, I think it's flattering that there's people out there who, oh, Phil shouldn't be successful, I should be successful, I gotta bring him down. And so they make this hateful content. Again, if people are going to that extent to bring me down, it must mean I'm doing something right, because I'm garnering that much attention, you know what I mean? And that much jealousy. So, if you're using my content for a fan tribute, if you're using my content for a montage, for anything like that, I fully support it, and I will not be, don't worry that I'm going to come after you with copyright claims or anything like that, okay? Alright, next question. This one is actually from Solid Fantasy, who is an avid forum user, and he says, Phil, if you could have any character who was synonymous with PlayStation, and the character doesn't necessarily have to be an exclusive, just someone who most people would identify with Sony, in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royal, this is an upcoming game for the PlayStation, who would it be? I would say Kevin Butler. Kevin Butler would be the character who I would associate the most with the PlayStation. Obviously, that's a joking answer, but I mean, think about it. He really is a console-exclusive character when you think about it. He's the spokesperson in the PR campaigns for Sony for the PlayStation 3. But speaking of that, now that I think about it, what happened to Kevin Butler? He hasn't been around for like a year. In fact, didn't you notice he was doing those ad campaigns for SOCOM and Resistance 3, and then all of a sudden that was when all the PlayStation Network last year got hacked and went down for over a month. And then those commercials went off TV simply because they were advertising you could play these games online. You couldn't. He never came back. Like, I don't remember seeing him after that. So that's kind of funny. Maybe I'll see him at E3. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of weird that they just kind of like erased him from the TV and there's no more ad campaign for Sony stuff. Huh. Next question. Hey Phil, are you ever going to be a guest on Schnoz-Man and Holepunch the Justice League? That's from Jonathan D. My answer to that simply is, I don't know. It's not my series. That would be completely up to John and OJ. That's their own baby. And, I think that for the most part, the reason that, you probably haven't seen me in an episode, it's just hard for me to get around. Like, for example, when John usually films that series, he films it where OJ lives in Connecticut, which is about an hour's drive away from me. And it's hard for me to get there. If I were to get there, I'd have to drive on all side streets. And it would be a major pain in the ass because I can't drive on the highway because of my back injury. Now, if you look at everyone else who's been in the episodes, Andre, Howard, yeah, they're fine. They could drive. They drive on the highway all the time, so they're able to be mobile and get there for filming. I did tell John, if you ever did want to have me in an episode, I would be willing to do it. Of course, the problem would be the logistics. How do I get there? So I think probably just for ease of whatever, ease of getting me there for the series, I think that's probably why I haven't been in it. I know John's writing the rest of the episodes. I think he wants it to be maybe like an 8-episode run. I'm not sure. But he hasn't said anything to me, so I'm guessing I'm probably not going to be in it, which is fine. I'm not clamoring to be in 100 other series anyway, but I did offer, that service. If John ever did want me in there as a character, I said I would definitely do it. Next question. Phil, what is your career goal? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years' time? Do you plan on sticking with what you're doing now, maybe branching out a little bit, or perhaps starting something completely different? That's from Rocco Poner. I think these questions, and I get these all the time. I get these all the time, but we get them all the time. Everyone does. You go apply for a job. That's a question on the job application. You go to apply for a college. They got that on the college application. You know what? I think this is the dumbest question, and I'm going to tell you why. No one fucking knows where they're going to be in 10 years. In the past 10 years of my life, let me explain where I've been, okay? I graduated from college, so I stopped working at the time I believe it was Circuit City, and I started working at a mortgage/lending place called Wells Fargo Financial. I did that for a year. That didn't work out. I had to leave that job. Ended up working, or moving out of my parents' house and living at an apartment that I shared for a while. But then because I lost or left that job at Wells Fargo, I had to find another one quickly to pay the bills. I ended up working at Best Buy on their business team. I did that for about a year. Then they fired me because they basically wanted to lay off everyone on the business team, and they said if they fired me for some kind of misconduct, they wouldn't have to pay me unemployment. So they ended up firing me, saying that I abused the store discount when I had bought 3 PlayStations to run a Street Fighter tournament, which is complete bullshit. By the way, there was a case, a whole thing there of appeals in the case. I ended up getting unemployment and making them look like absolute shit for that. But then I was screwed because I didn't have another job. So for a couple months I didn't have a job and I had like no money. Then I ended up working at my next job, which was the job that I had for 5 years, working in an office. That job went such ups and downs at that job. I worked for 20 different groups within the company. I ended up getting all this training for continuous improvement. They invested a lot of money in me, and then after 5 years, they just laid me off like nothing. So, then I started doing YouTube, and now let's be honest, I've been successful, but there are ups and downs. You get site bugs that screw everything up. You get threats like SOPA and PIPA last year that it looked like maybe I might not be able to do this anymore if they changed the way that these laws work and internet censoring. And who knows? In the past 10 years, my life has been crazy. I've moved here, I've moved there. I've lived with my parents 2 different times. Now I own my own place. I've done this, I've done that, I've traveled. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen? It's such a dumb question. Where would you like to be in 10 years' time? I don't know. Again, in 10 years' time, YouTube could shut down. I could end up being working for some media company. I could end up working for a gaming company. I could end up working, going back to the job market if the economy picks back up. Maybe I'll go back to the kind of stuff I was doing, even though I would prefer not to do that. Who knows? Who knows? My life has been such a crazy ride that for me, if for 10 years ago, do you really think I would have said, in 10 years' time, I think I'm going to be on YouTube playing video games and doing my hobby for a living and making good money and going to E3 and having a blast doing it? What? No, of course not. No one even says that kind of shit. So those kind of questions, when people used to ask me those, I would be like, I don't know. This is a dumb question, because it really is. What they're asking you really with that question is, do you have a plan for your life? Do you have a consistent thing that you would want to do? And you want to know the truth? I think that's boring. I think that if I were 20 years old and I'd planned out my entire life, that's fucking boring. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have set goals and things that you would like to do, but at the same time, I like going with the flow. I like not knowing what's around that next bend. I like the fact that there's maybe a little bit of risk involved in my life, and it's not just so boring and, oh, I go wake up at 9 every morning, I eat my same bowl of cereal, I shave and shower, I go to work, I sit at my desk for 8 hours, I come home, I have a beer, I make dinner, I clean the house, I go to sleep. I wake up at 9 the next day, I have my bowl of cereal. You know what I mean? There are people who that's their life, and they've planned out their life, and that's it. Maybe some people love having a set routine, and that's what they do for the rest of their life. I like the fact that my life changes on the fly, and things happen, and crazy opportunities happen all the time. So I'm not that kind of person. I probably never will be. And therefore, no, I can't answer a question, what do I want to do in 5, 10 years? You know, I think those are silly kind of questions. And who would know? Who would know what the future's going to bring in that kind of a time span? That's a silly question. Give me 1 second, because unfortunately I didn't set my timer like I said. I think I might almost be out of time. In fact, yes I am. So I will be back. I will be back with part 2 of episode 24 of Ask the King. We got lots more questions to get to, including Twitter and Facebook questions this time around. So stay tuned, and I'll see you then.